Welcome, and oh boy, we have an interesting show today, and I don't want you to miss it because a lot of you are preppers. I never heard that word prepper until I ran into some real serious people. The preppers that I work with are people that are really serious about it. They have houses, literally, that they've got alternative houses up in the mountains, and then people start talking about buying, getting acres for food because they're going to have to do their own food. And then they've got the Kiyosaki version where they're in gold and silver. And bullets. They actually believe that bullets are going to be a currency to trade in. And I have to say, I always thought that was such a dystopian view of the world. But then I began to realize, well, maybe it's not so dystopian because we had an energy outage in our neighborhood that took place last year. And what happened was the Sparks, Mercedes Sparks right here, and her husband and her daughter had to come over to our house because the pipes froze, and we had such a freeze out that we actually almost had a complete blackout of all energy, and we went for periods of time without any electricity. And I thought, wait a second, this prepper thing it's not just about, Armageddon. It's about being able to survive in a complex, computerized, interdependent age where we have no idea how the food grid, the electric grid, the water grid, you may have to be able to operate independently for a period of time. And here in the heart of sophisticated Dallas, Texas, we were shut down and people were coming over to each other's houses to survive. That woke me up and I said, maybe I need to take a look at this whole prep thing and realize it's more about understanding the fragile nature of the world that we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been a prepper for a while. I'm not as advanced as the people that you're listing, which is, I think, on the far side of the bell curve. But I'd like to think of myself as just every average day. Just somebody that's prepared, to your point. Like I used to live in Florida. We'd have hurricanes. You don't have food for, sometimes you don't have electricity for 2 weeks. And so if you have stuff that's ready to go, like I have a little sun oven, I have food for 6 months. I have something called a bug out bag, which is like if you had to walk into the woods and just like survive for 2 weeks. If I had to walk to my aunt's in Oklahoma, like I have stuff for me, Larry, my mom, and Liberty, even the dogs. So I'm that prepared. But, like to your point, it's not some sort of Armageddon scenario if that ever happens, but just normal everyday life. Like when we had the, our power did go out for almost, I want to say 4 or 5 days. And we were over at y'all's house playing board games and they'd had the rolling blackouts for use every 45 minutes.
It's crazy.
The power came on and we were like, quick, cook something.
But I was thinking of how it brings you back to nature because we literally had start fires. We were operating by candlelight. And then the other part of this thing, which is you can go without electricity, but you really can only go so long without food and water.
Yeah.
And so then I start thinking, I got my son on the show here, and I think about my kids, and I think I got 2 boys and a girl, and I don't know that they're thinking. I mean, if at my age I'm thinking about this, I think the younger you are, the more presumptuous you are about the stability of life. You don't realize how fragile democracy is, what a phenomena economics is, and stuff like that.
Not millennials.
But not millennials?
We realize this whole thing is burning down real fast.
The
we don't have a whole lot of hope for the future. So to say like, oh, the millennials are fine. They believe that everything is stable. We don't. We don't think anything is stable.
Well, I'm comforted in a strange and ironic way by that statement.
Good.
But let me bring in a specialist we have that was kind enough to give us some time on the show today. Joe Rieck, who is, I would say that he's an expert on some of the subjects that have to do with, most recently, the area of interest we have is the disrupted food supply. My group is not only now a anxious prepper group, but they're actually conspiracy oriented because I saw like 90 of these food processing plants, facilities, burning down. And I'm looking, I pay attention to that now. I'm thinking, what the heck's going on here? It's almost like there's a spirit of anarchy trying to facilitate the disruption of food supply apart from global economic realities.
Yeah, and if we could bring Joe up, that would be great because I want to ask about things like just gas prices and the trucking supply line. I mean, there's really practical things that I'd love to get your expert take
Joe, we're
on.
coming to you now with you've got to be Solomon now and demystify all of us from the complexity of all these issues. You can pick any one of them. My big concern is, and this is what started motivating me to look you guys up and to begin investing in getting a food supply going. It was two things, actually. I go to a friend of mine's place out in Colorado, and he shows me a freezer where he has like months, I don't know, maybe it looked like a year's supply of stuff in a frozen area he had specially separated with your products in it. And I said, oh my gosh, you're ready for a whole year. And then he mentioned how many kids he's got, how many family members he's got, that he's thinking about the whole family. Where would they go? And so his ranch is where he would take them. I said, my big nightmare scenario is everyone's going to realize the food supply is disrupted, and then guys like you are going to be hit so hard there won't be anything for them. So, fear is a weird motivator, but I started taking action a couple of months ago. So what is the practical thing that people can do, Joe, to start to get ahead of this potential disaster?
Well, I think what they need to do is they need to do some research. I can provide you with the tools, but you got to do your own work. You got to do what you need to do for you and your family. And one of the things that we try to educate all of our customers is nobody's going to care more about your survival than yourselves. Do the work, do the research, and get prepared. There's lots of different things that you can do. And the beautiful thing about what we offer is our product has up to a 25-year shelf life. So this is a long-term emergency food. And these are meals that all you have to do is simply add it to boiling water. Meals like pasta Alfredo, spaghetti, macaroni and cheese, traveler stew. Meals that are simple to prepare in the face of an emergency when you don't have any power, when you don't have any lights or anything like that. Add it to boiling water, let it sit and simmer for 10 to 15 minutes, and you're going to have a nice, nutritious meal for you and your family. And the benefit with this product is you can get it today, and it has up to a 25-year shelf life. So you get it, you forget about it, and you can have the peace of mind that if anything were to happen to you and your family, whether because of a natural disaster, whether it be because of a job loss, or whether because of inflation and you can't just afford the groceries anymore, you can have that peace of mind that you can still provide for you and your family. And that's what we do here at My Patriot Supply.
I didn't realize it was a 25-year shelf life. That's kind of amazing. I was thinking a year, but now that's even more so. So what about you, Mercedes? You have your...
Oh, yeah. Well, and he's right. You do have to go out and do the research. So I got really into prepping maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Just like I'm saying, just out of, hey, let's be prepared. I don't really know where the world's going. And, you'd be surprised. Like how many calories a day one person needs, how much water a day one person needs. And so you have to be ready. Cause sometimes you don't think it's that much, but normally, and we can ask Joe, Joe, what should people be thinking about? Is it 2,000 calories a day, a gallon of water a day? Is that what people should be thinking about per individual in their household?
Everybody's going to be different, but one of the things that really separates us from a lot of other competitors in the marketplace is we are staunchly critical about the caloric intake. All of our meals, all of our packages, they're going to provide you with up to 2,000 calories per day, as well as over 30 grams of protein per day. And these are not just calories that are derived from sugary drinks or anything like that. These are actual good calories derived from complex carbohydrates. So this is the stuff that your body is really going to need in order to have what it needs for survival. And that's kind of the main focus. Now, when you talk about, well, gosh, how much do I need? Every family is going to be different. And this is, again, where you need to sit down and do the work. Take a look at your family's needs. Look at how many people you're going to be providing food for, and then you can decide what you would feel comfortable with. Just to kind of give you an idea, back even 5-6 years ago, the Red Cross used to educate everybody and say, hey, have at least a 3-day supply of food on hand for every member of your family. Well, after Katrina, after some of those other natural disasters where they realized that the response to come help and come bail people out is a lot slower than they anticipated, they bumped that up and they said, gosh, now maybe you need to have a few weeks. Well, we went through the COVID-19 era, and now they said, gosh, you got to have more than a couple of weeks for every member of your family. Get at least a month's supply. So as we experience more of these natural disasters, more of these emergencies, people are understanding that it's going to take time for the government to come and bail them out, that they can't respond, they can't mobilize as quickly as they thought they should. And like I said previously, nobody's going to care more about your survival than yourself. So you got to do the work. You need to make sure that you have what you need for you and your family. Mm-hmm. And whether that's a month supply for every member of your family, whether that's a 3-month supply, or whether that's even a 12-month supply, we can do it. We have it all here for you. And it's just based upon what you and the family needs.
So Absolutely. I want to make sure people know about this. So it's going to be lancewallnau.com/patriot. lancewallnau.com/patriot. We utilize this. I mean, we ourselves have researched this company, and we ourselves are customers. And I'm just kind of curious about something. Do you have to have cold storage for this, or what? Because this other guy was refrigerated stuff, but I don't think it has to be refrigerated, right?
No, that's the beauty about this stuff. As long as you leave it, in a cooler location, never store it in a hot garage or a hot attic. But yeah, put it inside of your home, ambient room temperature. You can get up to a 25-year shelf life on this product. And what you get out of it really, Lance, is the peace of mind that if something were to happen, you know that you're going to be able to take care of you and your family. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you look at what's going on right now in the world, we're going to be experiencing major food shortages right now. There are a lot of factors that are playing into that. Number one, I think we talked about it earlier with the lack of fertilizer. There's no fertilizer for farmers to purchase right now. The cost of diesel fuel is skyrocketed. Farmers can't afford to pay for the fuel that they need for their tractors to go plow the fields. So that means that they're going to be producing a lot less food than what they normally produce. Mm-hmm. So those are just little factors that's going to have a significant impact on what we can see at our grocery stores. And so, like I tell all of our customers right now, you never know when a disaster is going to happen. I'm sure, when that freeze came in Texas, that you guys weren't anticipating that happening. Nobody was planning for that. Mm-hmm. And it caught everybody by surprise. You got to do it now while you have the chance, while you're still able to do it and get it done now. It's a lot easier to prepare for an emergency before it happens than when it's happening at that time. And so like I educate, do your research, look at the things that are out there, talk to members of your family, come up with plans, come up with, escape routes, come up with evacuation plans. Mm-hmm. I know it sounds really silly, but talk about it. Know what you're going to do in those types of situations.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's always weird. Like, it is true. Like, when you come up with a plan like that, because we've got one, I think we're just going to meet at my aunt's in Oklahoma, because what ends up happening is, like, what happens if there's like an EMP and all the cell phones go down? This is how my brain works, people. I think about crazy stuff like this, but it is interesting when you talk about it with your family. My husband looks at me like, what? But I want to talk, though, really quick, because Lance, you brought up the lancewallnau.com/patriot, and we do have a couple specials that Joe is nice enough to arrange for us. And so there's a 4-week emergency food supply that's up there, and we'll make sure we put this on the screen later for you guys. And so there's 4 weeks, a great place to start. We've got about $50 off on that one. And then there's a 3-month emergency food supply. And here's what I want to tell you, okay? Because when I first started looking at this, I'd go to these sites and I'd get a little overwhelmed of like, oh my gosh, I do the math and I figure out my whole family and I have to get all this, and I get overwhelmed at sometimes the price of it. But I think what's so important is you have to look at this, and which is what I did. I started a budget for it, and every month I would add something new. Every month I kind of started with a 2-week food supply, and then I went to a month, and then I went to 3 months, and I'm about 6 months right now. But it's not something that I bought all at one time, but I approached it in just a really methodical way.
Joe, on your, I'm looking over here at the page, and you've got the Ultimate Cooking Light and Emergency Power Kit, the emergency solar flashlight, and AM/FM weather radio. So, also, the 100-hour candle. This stuff is like ingenious. What is some of your bestseller other items other than food, which we're all familiar with? Tell me about what else is selling in the infinite wisdom of the populist movement out there.
Food is always going to be one of our top selling items. But along with food, you have to think about water, because water is a critical component of any emergency food plan, especially with our stuff, because you need water in order to make these meals. And so water filtration is also a huge issue. I think the saying goes, you can survive 7 days without food, but only 3 days without water. Mm-hmm. Water is critical. And with our Alexa Pure Pro water filtration system, you now have the ability to purify water from any location. So whether you get water from a stream, a lake, a river, a swimming pool, running it through that Alexa-Pure water filtration system, it'll get rid of all of the bacteria, all the cryptosporidium, all of the protozoas, and those Alexa-Pure water filters will do up to 5,000 gallons. So you can get that for you and your family, and you can have the peace of mind, again, knowing that if something were to happen, you can still provide them with water that you can use for cleaning, you can use for drinking, you can use for cooking, whatever you need water for, you can have clean, potable water.
Wow. Well, that's another reason why Annabelle will want me to get a swimming pool. Yeah, when she hears this, I hope she doesn't hear this.
There's method to the madness sometimes.
Yeah, really. Hey, I noticed in the shot behind you, it should have occurred to me that those aren't interstate batteries. Those are actually your products behind you, right? So what are we looking at? Like, how big is? Tell me what that is.
Your audience knows. So we package all of our stuff into these pouches, and these pouches will have a Ziploc inside of there. So when you're ready to use it, you simply rip it open, dump out the portion, Ziploc it back up, and then throw it inside of the pail for you. You know, within 7 to 10 days, use it again. But the way that we've made this product is we made it very, very sturdy. We've made it very, very secure, very simple and easy to use for families. So, you know, when you want to go make dinner, you go to the pail, open it up, pick whatever meal you want out of our 21 different meal varieties, add it to boiling water, and you got dinner in 15 minutes.
And let me just add that the survival coffee is also available, which for me is an indispensable, because I will be broadcasting as long as the power grid doesn't go down.
You joke, but that will be a luxury. If everything really did fall apart, people who have coffee, it's like you can barter with it. You can trade with it, other than staying caffeinated on the run.
I'm telling you. I'm caffeinated on the run. That's a really dystopian future going there.
I know, right?
Hey, listen, I love this. People need to go there, lancewallnau.com/patriot. And what's the number one question people ask you when you're doing interviews like this?
Where to start? You know, because I think people do get overwhelmed with it, because this is a newer thing. This is kind of a thing that they feel kind of, I don't know if I should be doing this, because I don't want to be considered one of the crazy people that's looking at putting away food. But you just got to start somewhere. You know, there's an acronym that I learned at the university called KISS, Keep It Simple Silly. I changed a little word there for you, but keep it simple. Look at the basic needs of you and your family. Sit down. If you guys decide to have a 3-month supply, if you decide to get a 2-week supply, work on those basic items. Get a 2-week supply for every member of your family. Just like Mercedes said, she budgeted it out. You know, she worked at it. You know, emergency preparedness, it's not a destination, but it's a journey. There are so many different facets of emergency preparedness that, yeah, you could get overwhelmed with it, but keep it simple. Focus on the food aspect 1 month. Next month, focus on the water aspect. Next month, focus on the shelter aspect. What are you going to do for a shelter if you don't have your home anymore? These little things like that, be prepared and start talking about it, start thinking about it, and start working at it. But the most thing that I can encourage you right now and your audience is to do something today. Do it while you can, when you can, because I don't know what's going to happen here in the next 8 to 10 months. I mean, if you would have told me 2 years ago that we'd be in this position right now with where we're at in the world, I would have laughed at you and said, you're crazy. But as you know, got to be prepared for whatever life throws at you.
Well, Joe, stay safe, stay strong, and let's stay connected. We look forward to talking to you again in the future, because we're going to be doing some highlights on the various survival, technology that you've got now that we're expanding into that. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Joe.
It's a pleasure. Thank you guys so much. I'd be happy to come back anytime.
I remember that's lancewallnau.com/patriot. We do it. I'm doing it. And I'm looking at some of this. Annabelle got me a generator, solar power generator for Christmas, and so that we could generate electricity for a couple of hours use. I tell you what, this is fascinating. Mercedes, we're going to close with you.
I wanted to say at the end of what Joe was saying, the important thing is just do something. Don't not do anything. I mean, if you're doing nothing, that is the worst possible thing. And so go check out lancewallnau.com/patriot. There's got to be something there for you, but don't look at it, get overwhelmed, and decide I'm not going to do anything. Go do research. There's plenty of other great resources online too, as much as I love, and I have my own products from my Patriot Food Supply, but don't not do anything, because that's the worst possible thing, because you don't know when an emergency is going to happen. You don't know when you're going to need to have a food supply. And so this is one way of looking at it. The other thing I wanted to say is that it's not just generic meals. I don't know if we threw that in there. But they have breakfast, they have lunch, they have dinner, all sorts of great different meals. You can actually add to it like freeze-dried vegetables, fruits. You can add other additional freeze-dried meats. So there's so many great things to be thinking about. And you're so right. You got to start thinking about this. You have to go out and do your research. This is one element of the things that we talk about when we say be prepared. Be financially prepared, have a plan for your cash, and also have a plan for your food. You have to be thinking about this. So I just want to exhort you. This isn't supposed to be something to make you worry. This isn't supposed to be something to make you fearful. This is something that says from one sister to another sister or sister to a brother that you have to be prepared. That's the key word, is prepare. Is there a Bible verse like that, Lance, that it's like...
Yes, a wise man sees trouble and prepares himself is a proverb.
There we go. Love that.
So on that note, the wise man does see trouble and does prepare. And I think we're blessed by God in the fact that none of this is happening overnight, that we have a window of preparation. So take heed to this warning. You've got to have something for your family, for yourself, and even a little bit every day is the secret. And I look forward to coming back because we got some really powerful interviews coming up that you're going to be seeing in the next segments and the next shows. We're doing a bunch of them today. And I look forward to sharing these wild reports because things are happening. Breakthrough is happening. The church is really rising up in so many ways. And I think we're seeing an awakening forming. So I look forward to seeing you when we come back again on the next show.
If you enjoyed today's show, please show your support by visiting lancewallnau.com/Patriot and receive big discounts on your emergency supplies today.